The Krithax dominion stretched across two-thirds of the known galaxy like a disease that would not die. For 300 years, Emperor Vex Thor and his ancestors had crushed world after world beneath their military might. Their ships were fast and deadly. Their soldiers showed no mercy. Any species that resisted found their cities burned and their populations enslaved. The Galactic Council still met in its grand chamber on the neutral station of Unity Point. Representatives from 100 worlds gathered there to discuss laws and treaties. But everyone knew the truth. The Council was a puppet. Every law they passed required approval from Krithax overseers, who sat in the back of the chamber. Every treaty favored the Dominion. Any delegate who spoke too boldly against Vex Thor's rule simply disappeared. The conquered species whispered about rebellion in dark corners. They dreamed of freedom. But the Krithax war machine was too powerful. Their fleet numbered in the tens of thousands. Their weapons could crack planets. Their spy network reached into every government. Hope died a little more each year. Then humans arrived. They came from another galaxy 80 years ago in a small fleet of colony ships. They looked weak compared to most galactic species. No scales or armor plating on their skin. No natural weapons like claws or poison. They were soft creatures who died easily. The Krithax dismissed them as barely worth noticing. The humans asked permission to settle on empty frontier worlds, far from established civilizations. The Council agreed quickly. These remote planets were considered worthless. Harsh environments. Poor resources. Perfect places to dump the newcomers where they could be forgotten. Humanity took those difficult worlds and made them home. They built their colonies with quiet determination. They traded fairly with nearby species but never pushed for political influence. They sent polite delegations to council meetings but rarely spoke. They seemed content to remain on the galaxy's edge, far from the centers of power. The Krithax watched them occasionally but saw no threat. Humans had decent ships but nothing impressive. They had weapons, but nothing that matched Dominion technology. Intelligence reports suggested humans numbered only a few billion spread across 20 worlds. They were insignificant. That assessment changed 6 months ago. The Dominion needed new resources for their expanding fleet. Emperor Vex Thor's advisors identified human colonies as targets. The worlds had been developed nicely over 8 decades. Mining operations, industrial facilities, agricultural zones. The humans had done the hard work. Now the Krithax would take the fruits of that labor. The demand arrived through official council channels. Humanity would surrender all colonies to Dominion control. Human populations would relocate to designated areas under Krithax supervision. Human ships would be confiscated. Human government would dissolve and accept client species status. They had 30 days to comply. The galaxy waited to see how the humans would respond. Ambassador Chen stood before the council 3 weeks later. She was a small woman with gray hair and tired eyes. She had represented humanity at Unity Point for 15 years. Most delegates barely remembered her name. She rarely spoke during sessions. Now every eye in the chamber fixed on her. The Krithax overseer, a massive creature with dark scales and glowing red eyes, loomed behind the council podium. He radiated contempt as Ambassador Chen approached the speaking platform. "The human government has considered the Dominion's terms," Chen said quietly. Her voice carried through the chamber's audio system. "We decline." Silence fell like a physical weight. The Krithax overseer's eyes widened. "Yes," Chen said. "We will not surrender our worlds. We will not accept subjugation. We came to this galaxy seeking peace. We have lived peacefully for 80 years. But we will not become slaves." The overseer's laugh boomed through the chamber. Other Krithax officials joined in. The sound was cruel and mocking. "You are fewer than 5 billion primitives scattered across worthless rocks," the overseer said. "The Dominion fleet numbers 50,000 warships. You have perhaps 200. You cannot resist. You will only die." Ambassador Chen stood straight despite her small stature. Then we will defree. She turned and walked from the chamber. Her footsteps echoed in the stunned silence. Every delegate watched her leave. Some felt admiration for her courage. Most felt pity for her species' coming destruction. News of humanity's refusal reached Emperor Vex Thor within the hour. He sat on his throne in the Imperial Palace, on Krithax Prime, a massive structure built from the bones of conquered civilizations. The throne itself was carved from the hull of the first ship to oppose his grandfather. Interesting, Vex Thor said. He was ancient by most species standards, over 200 years old. Genetic modifications and medical technology kept him strong. His scaled body was massive and powerful. His eyes held the coldness of someone who had ordered billions killed and felt no remorse. "Shall I send the full invasion fleet, Father?" General Kravex asked. He was Vex Thor's youngest son and commanded the Dominion's fastest attack forces. He was eager to prove himself through conquest. "No," Vex Thor said thoughtfully. "Send enough to crush them completely, but not so many that their destruction lacks spectacle. I want the galaxy to watch. I want every species to see what happens to those who defy us. Make an example that will be remembered for centuries." "How many ships?" Kravex asked. 5,000, Vex Thor decided. More than enough to overwhelm their defenses. Kill half their population. Enslave the rest. Broadcast it across every system. Let the galaxy see the price of rebellion. Kravex bowed. "It will be done, Father. The humans will regret their arrogance." 3 days later, 5,000 Krithax warships gathered at the edge of human space. They were organized in perfect formations that demonstrated Dominion military precision. Each ship bristled with weapons. Troop transports carried millions of soldiers. The fleet could conquer entire sectors. General Kravex stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest. Through the viewing screens, he could see his armada stretching into the distance. It was beautiful, terrible, overwhelming. "Target the colony of New Sol," he commanded. "It is their largest settlement. We will break them there first." The navigator confirmed coordinates. The fleet prepared to jump through faster than light space. Every captain reported ready status. "All ships," Kravex announced across the fleet channel. "Jump in 30 seconds. Show no mercy. Leave nothing but ashes and examples." The countdown began. The Krithax fleet vanished into jump space, crossing light years in moments. They were heading toward New Sol, expecting easy victory. They had no idea what waited in the darkness between the stars. The Krithax armada emerged from jump space at the edge of the New Sol system. 5,000 warships materialized in perfect attack formation. Their sensors immediately began scanning for targets. New Sol was the largest human colony, home to 400 million people. The planet was green and blue, similar to ancient Earth from humanity's distant past. 3 moons orbited in stable patterns. Orbital stations dotted the space around the world like silver flowers. General Kravex studied the tactical display from his command throne. He saw approximately 30 human defense platforms surrounding the planet. Another 20 military vessels patrolled the outer system. Civilian traffic scattered immediately when his fleet appeared. Ships fleeing toward the planet or jumping away to other systems. "This is their greatest defense?" Kravex asked with amusement. "I brought 5,000 ships to crush 50. This will be over before midday." 18. His officers laughed appropriately. The Krithax had conquered thousands of worlds. This would be no different. The numbers told the story clearly. Overwhelming force against inadequate resistance. A communication signal reached the flagship. Kravex allowed it through, curious to hear what the humans would say. A man appeared on the viewing screen. He wore a simple military uniform with minimal decoration. His face was weathered and serious. His hair was black with gray at the temples. The name tag identified him as Commander Park, Defense Coordinator of New Sol, Krithax Fleet. Park said calmly, "You are violating human territorial space." You have one opportunity to withdraw peacefully. If you proceed, you will be fired upon." The bridge fell silent for a moment. Then, Kravex began laughing. His officers joined in, until the sound filled the entire command center. "You threaten me?" Kravex said when he could speak again. "You have 50 platforms and ships. I have 5,000 warships. Your weapons are inferior. Your numbers are pathetic. You cannot win. Surrender now, and I will make your deaths quick." Commander Park's expression did not change. "You were warned. All human forces, weapons free. Defend your home." The transmission ended. "Arrogant prey," Kravex muttered. "All ships, advance. Destroy their platforms first, then their ships. I want nothing left in orbit within the hour." The Krithax fleet began moving forward in organized waves. Thousands of weapons locked onto human targets. The attack would be devastating and total. The human defense platforms opened fire first. Energy beams and missiles streaked across space toward the advancing Krithax ships. The weapons were competent, but nothing special by galactic standards. Several Krithax vessels took hits. Shields absorbed most damage. 2 smaller ships suffered hull breaches, but remained functional. "Return fire," Kravex ordered calmly. "Show them the difference between their toys and real weapons." The Krithax response was overwhelming. Thousands of weapons fired simultaneously, space filled with deadly energy. The first 3 human platforms exploded within seconds. Then, 5 more. The human defensive line began collapsing under impossible odds. But the humans did not run. Their ships maneuvered with unexpected skill. They used the planet's gravity well to slingshot into better firing positions. They coordinated their attacks, focusing fire on individual Krithax ships to penetrate shields through sustained bombardment. They fought with determination that surprised Kravex. "These humans have courage," he admitted. "Foolish courage, but courage nonetheless." The battle continued for 90 minutes. The humans made the Krithax pay for every meter of space. They destroyed 18 Krithax ships and damaged dozens more. But mathematics could not be denied. One by one, the human platforms died. Their ships were hunted down and destroyed. Commander Park's vessel was the last military ship remaining. It was battered and burning. Half its weapons were destroyed. Life support was failing, but Park kept fighting, making attack runs against Krithax battleships even though his weapons barely scratched their shields. Kravex almost felt respect. "Almost. Disable that ship," he ordered. "I want the commander alive. He deserves to see his world burn before we execute him." Precision fire crippled Park's ship without destroying it completely. The human vessel tumbled through space, powerless and defeated. "Excellent," Kravex said. "Prepare landing forces. We will occupy the planet and begin processing the population. This is over." Manic. On the bridge of his ruined ship, Commander Park pulled himself to the communication console. Blood ran down his face from a head wound. Smoke filled the compartment. Emergency lighting cast everything in red shadows. He entered a series of codes with shaking hands. The console beeped acceptance. A single word flashed on the screen. Authorized. Park opened a tight beam transmission aimed not at the Krithax but toward distant Earth. His voice was quiet, but steady. "Protocol Nightfall. Authorization Park. Commander 773. This is not a drill. Repeat. This is not a drill. New Sol has fallen. Activate the fleet." He closed the transmission and leaned back in his chair. His hands were steady now. There was nothing more he could do. He had played his part. Now he would see if 80 years of preparation had been enough. Across human space, the message reached hidden facilities. Computers that had waited in silence for 8 decades suddenly came alive. Authorization codes were verified. Ancient protocols activated. In asteroid fields that humans had mined for resources, massive doors began opening. Rocks that had seemed natural split apart to reveal hidden interiors. Around orbital stations designated as research facilities, camouflage systems powered down. The true nature of these structures became visible. On moons that humans had claimed for colonization, surfaces cracked and shifted. Enormous shapes rose from beneath manufactured craters. The systems that powered up had been built slowly and secretly over 80 years. Every human colony had contributed. Every generation had added to the project. Resources had been diverted carefully to avoid suspicion. Technology had been hidden behind false purposes. Humanity had sworn to leave war behind when they entered this galaxy. They had meant that promise sincerely, but they had also sworn never to be helpless victims again. Near the planet of New Melbourne, a human mining station suddenly blazed with energy. The structure was 20 kilometers long, built into an asteroid that had been hollowed out decades ago. Power readings spiked to levels that no mining station should possess. The asteroid split down the middle. From inside emerged a warship unlike anything the galaxy had seen in centuries. It was massive, dark, gray, and angular. Weapons studded its hull like the scales of some ancient predator. It dwarfed any Krythax battleship. Similar scenes played out across 40 human systems. Asteroids opened. Moons revealed hidden bays. Orbital platforms transformed from research stations into warships. The human Warfleet was awakening, and it was not small. General Kravex stood on his bridge preparing to savor victory. His sensors officer suddenly gasped. "General." Reading massive energy signatures throughout human space. Unknown vessels powering up. Hundreds of them. No. Thousands. The readings are impossible. Kravex stared at the tactical display as it updated. His expression changed from triumph to confusion to the first hints of fear. Something ancient and terrible was stirring in the darkness. And it was coming for them. 82 years ago, humanity had arrived in this galaxy as refugees. The ships that carried them were massive colony vessels, each holding millions of people in suspended animation. They came from across the dimensional barrier that separated galaxies, fleeing a civilization that had destroyed itself. The truth of human history was not widely known in this galaxy. Humanity had shared only simple stories about their origins. They claimed to be explorers from a distant region. They spoke of seeking new opportunities. They seemed like harmless newcomers trying to find their place among established civilizations. But Ambassador Chen remembered the real story. She had been among the first to wake when the colony ships arrived. She had been young then, only 30 years old. Now she was old, with memories that weighed heavy on her soul. Humanity's original galaxy had been consumed by war. Not a war between species or nations, but a war against an enemy that came from dark space between stars. The creatures had no name that human languages could properly speak. They consumed entire worlds, turning planets into feeding grounds for horrors beyond description. Humanity fought back with everything they had. They built weapons that could shatter moons. They created warships the size of cities. They developed technology that bent the laws of physics. The war lasted 200 years and killed trillions. In the end, humanity won. But victory came at a terrible price. Their original galaxy was poisoned by the weapons both sides had used. Entire sectors became uninhabitable. Planets were cracked open. Stars were destabilized. The civilization that survived was broken and haunted. The colony ships had been humanity's attempt to start fresh, to find a new galaxy where they could live peacefully, to leave behind the weapons and horrors of the old war. But humans are cautious creatures. Humans remember. Humans prepare. When they settled their new worlds, they built normal colonies on the surface, farms and cities, schools and hospitals. They traded and talked with galactic neighbors. They joined the council and followed the laws. But beneath the surface, in asteroid mines and on distant moons, they built something else. They built the weapons they prayed they would never need again. Every human colony contributed. Engineers who had fought in the old war trained new generations. Factories that appeared to produce civilian goods secretly manufactured military components. Resources were carefully diverted over decades. The project was called Nightfall, and every human adult knew it existed. If humanity ever faced extinction again, Nightfall would ensure they did not die easily. Now, as the Krithaks celebrated their victory over New Sol, Nightfall was activating across 40 star systems. The dreadnought that emerged from the asteroid near New Melbourne was named Remembrance. It had been under construction for 70 years, assembled piece by piece inside a hollowed asteroid. The ship was 8 kilometers long and 3 kilometers wide. Its hull was reinforced with materials that could withstand tremendous punishment. Its weapons systems were based on technology from humanity's original galaxy, far more advanced than anything this galaxy had developed. Captain Sarah Kim had commanded Remembrance for the past 15 years. She had been born in this galaxy but trained by veterans of the old war. She had walked the ship's corridors countless times during construction, watching it grow from framework to functional warship. She had hoped to command it only in drills and simulations. Now she sat in the command chair for real, and her ship was fully powered for the first time. All systems operational, her tactical officer reported. Weapons charged, shields at maximum, engines ready. Communications, Kim said calmly. Connect me to all Nightfall vessels. The communication system linked her to hundreds of other captains across human space. Each commanded a ship like hers, emerging from hiding after 8 decades of secret construction. This is Captain Kim of Remembrance, she said. All ships. This is not a drill. New Sol has fallen. The Krithaks have chosen war. Protocol Nightfall is active. Form up by squadron and prepare to jump. Target coordinates are being transmitted now. We are going to get our people back. Responses flooded in. Acknowledgements from hundreds of captains. Each voice was steady and professional. Each captain had trained for this moment. The human Warfleet began organizing itself with practiced precision. The ships emerged from concealment and moved into formation. There were over 2,000 capital ships, each comparable in size to Remembrance. Thousands more support vessels, destroyers, and carriers added to the fleet. The Krithaks had 5,000 ships at New Sol, but humanity's hidden fleet numbered over 8,000 warships total, and every vessel was built with technology the galaxy had not seen before. Ambassador Chen sat in her private quarters on Unity Point Station, watching the sensor feeds on her personal display. She saw the human ships powering up across the sector. She saw the Krithaks fleet at New Sol. Unaware of what was coming, she opened a communication channel that broadcast to every world in the galaxy. Her face appeared on screens from the Krithaks throne world to the most distant colony. She wanted everyone to see what came next. She wanted the galaxy to understand. People of the galaxy, Chen said quietly. For 80 years, humanity has lived peacefully among you. We came here seeking refuge from a war that destroyed our original home. We wanted nothing more than to build new lives and leave violence behind. She paused, letting her words sink in. The Krithaks' dominion has attacked our worlds. They have killed our people. They demand our submission or extinction. We tried to avoid this. We gave them every opportunity to leave us in peace. They chose war. Chen's expression hardened. What happens next is not our desire. It is necessity. We tried to leave war behind. You would not let us. She closed the transmission. Across the galaxy, billions watched in confusion. What could the small human population do against the mighty Dominion? They were about to learn. At New Sol, General Kravex was organizing landing forces when his sensors officer screamed. General, multiple jump signatures, massive energy readings, ships appearing throughout the system. The tactical display exploded with contacts. Hundreds of ships emerged from faster-than-light travel simultaneously, appearing in perfect formation around the Krithaks fleet. Kravex stared at the display in disbelief. Each human ship was enormous. Their power signatures were off the scale. Their weapons were charging with energy levels that should not be possible. Where did they come from? He demanded. Our intelligence showed humans had 200 ships total. Where did they get hundreds more? 812 ships confirmed, the sensors officer reported, her voice shaking. All larger than our battleships, reading weapons systems that do not match any known technology. General, these ships were not built recently. The hull compositions suggest decades of construction. That's impossible, Kravex said. But even as he spoke, he knew it was true. The humans had hidden this fleet for generations. They had played a long game while the galaxy dismissed them as insignificant. A transmission came through from the largest human ship. Captain Kim's face appeared on every Krithax bridge. Krithax forces, she said coldly. You have attacked our people. You have killed our civilians. You have declared war on humanity. We accept. Withdraw immediately, or be destroyed. Kravex found his voice. You cannot defeat 5,000 ships with 800. You misunderstand, Kim said. This is only one squadron. We have many more. Last chance. Withdraw or die. She meant it. Kravex could see it in her eyes. He gave the only order that made sense. All ships, attack. The Battle of New Sol began in earnest. And the galaxy watched in shock as the true power of humanity revealed itself. The Krithax opened fire with everything they had. 5,000 warships unleashed weapons that had conquered hundreds of worlds. Energy beams capable of cracking planetary shields streaked across space. Missiles by the thousands accelerated toward human vessels. The concentrated firepower should have obliterated any fleet. The human shields held. Captain Kim watched the tactical display as Krithax weapons hammered her ship. Remembrance shuddered under the impacts. But the advanced shielding absorbed damage that would have destroyed any galactic warship. The shield technology came from humanity's old galaxy, refined through centuries of desperate warfare. Return fire, Kim ordered. Target their battleships first. Show them what real weapons look like. Remembrance's main cannons fired. The weapons used principles that this galaxy had not discovered. They did not simply throw energy at targets. They created controlled spatial distortions that bypassed conventional shields and struck hulls directly. A Krithax battleship 3 times larger than any human destroyer simply came apart. The ship split down the middle as molecular bonds failed. Atmosphere and debris exploded into space. 1,600 crew members died in seconds. Target destroyed, the tactical officer reported. Engaging next target. Across the battlefield, 800 human ships opened fire. The Krithax fleet began dying. General Kravex watched in growing horror as his forces were systematically destroyed. His ships outnumbered the humans more than 6 to 1. But numbers meant nothing against such technological superiority. Every human weapon struck with devastating precision. Every Krithax hit barely scratched human shields. All ships, focus fire, he commanded desperately. Concentrate on individual targets. Overwhelm their shields through sustained bombardment. 20 Krithax battleships surrounded a single human destroyer and fired continuously. For 15 seconds, their combined weapons hammered the human vessel. The shields flickered and weakened. Then the human ship launched missiles that split into hundreds of smaller warheads. Each warhead was independently guided and equipped with shield-penetrating technology. The missiles swarmed the Krithax battleships like angry insects. Explosions blossomed across space. When the fire cleared, 18 of the 20 Krithax ships were destroyed or crippled. The human destroyer had survived with moderate shield damage. Pull back, Kravex ordered, his voice cracking. Retreat to defensive positions around the planet. Kravex, but the human ships pressed forward relentlessly. They moved with coordinated precision that spoke of superior computers and better training. They picked apart the Krithax formation, destroying ships faster than Kravex could reorganize his fleet. Commander Park, still trapped in his crippled ship, watched the battle through his failing sensors. He allowed himself a small smile. Nightfall had worked exactly as planned. The Krythax had walked into a trap thinking they faced helpless prey. They were learning the truth now. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, 3,000 Krythax ships were destroyed or disabled. The remaining 2,000 fled through jump space, abandoning the invasion. General Kravex escaped in his damaged flagship. His pride shattered along with his fleet. He had come to conquer a weak species. Instead, he had witnessed the birth of a new galactic power. Captain Kim ordered rescue operations for human survivors, including Commander Park. She also ordered her medical teams to rescue Krythax survivors from destroyed ships. Humanity would fight when necessary, but they would not slaughter helpless enemies. Broadcast to all human forces across the galaxy, Kim said. Nightfall protocols are active. All squadrons are to advance into Krythax space. Liberate occupied worlds. Engage any Dominion forces that resist. Our mission is to break their ability to wage war and free their slaves. The orders went out. Across 40 systems, human warfleets began jumping toward the Dominion's territory. The war had truly begun. News of the disaster at New Sol reached Emperor Vex Thor within hours. He sat on his throne reading reports that seemed impossible. 5,000 ships, defeated by 800. His son retreating in disgrace. Humans possessing weapons far beyond galactic standards. How? He demanded of his intelligence minister. How did we not know about this fleet? The minister, a scarred veteran of 100 campaigns, had no good answer. They hid the construction perfectly, Majesty. They used mining operations and research stations as cover. Our spies watched their civilian infrastructure and saw nothing threatening. We underestimated them completely. Vex Thor crushed the armrest of his throne in fury. Metal crumpled beneath his scaled fingers. Recall all fleets. Fortify the core worlds. We will show these humans what happens when they challenge the Dominion. But the recall came too late. Human squadrons appeared throughout Dominion space over the following days. They moved system by system, liberating worlds that had suffered under Krythax occupation for generations. The pattern was always similar. Human ships would arrive. They would broadcast terms of surrender. Krythax forces would usually choose to fight. They would lose. On the world of Talax IV, the native Talaxian people had been enslaved for 60 years. They worked in mines, extracting rare minerals for the Dominion war machine. Krythax overseers ruled with brutal efficiency. Any resistance was met with mass executions. When human ships appeared in orbit, the Talaxians expected nothing to change. New conquerors would replace old ones. Slavery would continue. Instead, human soldiers landed and immediately attacked Krythax military installations. They moved with precision, targeting only armed forces and avoiding civilian areas. Within 12 hours, the Krythax garrison was defeated. Ambassador Chen arrived on the second day. She met with Talaxian leaders in what had been the Krythax governor's palace. You are free, she told them simply. We are not here to conquer you. We are here to break the Dominion's power to oppress others. What you do with your freedom is your choice. The Talaxians did not trust her at first. They had been enslaved too long. But when human forces actually began withdrawing after establishing basic security, leaving Talaxian police to maintain order, the population started believing. Similar scenes played out on dozens of worlds. Species that had known only Krythax tyranny suddenly found themselves liberated by humans, who asked for nothing in return except that they stay free. Word spread quickly through the Dominion's enslaved populations. Some species began rebelling against their Krythax occupiers before human forces even arrived. Others provided intelligence about Dominion military positions. A few species with their own military forces offered to join the human advance. The Galactic Council met in emergency session. For the first time in decades, the Krythax overseers were not present. They had fled when human warships appeared near Unity Point Station. The Council delegates argued for 3 days about how to respond to humanity's offensive. Some species feared the humans would simply replace the Krythax, as new tyrants. Others saw opportunity for genuine freedom after centuries of oppression. Ambassador Chen addressed the council on the fourth day. "We do not want an empire," she said firmly. "We want peace. But peace built on justice, not submission. The Dominion has enslaved half this galaxy. That ends now. We will continue our advance until the Krythax surrender their emperor for trial and agree to release all conquered worlds. After that, we will help rebuild. Then, we will go home." "Why should we believe you?" demanded a delegate from the Zephron Collective, a species that had suffered greatly under both the Krythax and previous conquerors. "Because we kept our word for 80 years, Chen replied. "We said we wanted to live peacefully. We did exactly that, until we were forced to fight. When this war ends, we will keep our word again. We will help restore freedom, and then let you govern yourselves." "And if we refuse your help?" the Zephron asked. "Then we leave you alone," Chen said. "We are not here to force anything on anyone. We are here to break chains, not forge new ones." The council voted. By a narrow margin, they agreed to support humanity's war against the Dominion. More importantly, they agreed to begin forming a new galactic council that would actually represent free worlds rather than serve as a puppet government. The war continued to turn in humanity's favor. 3 more major battles saw Krythax fleets shattered against human firepower. Admiral Torres, commander of the human First Fleet, led the advance toward the Dominion core worlds. Emperor Vex Thor gathered his remaining forces around Krythax Prime, the throne world. He commanded 40,000 ships, pulled from every corner of the Dominion. He fortified the system with weapons, platforms, and minefields. He called up every client species' military force, demanding they defend the heart of the Empire. But most of those client species had already switched sides. Their ships joined the human advance, instead of opposing it. Vex Thor found himself with only 12,000 loyal ships, many damaged from earlier battles. His empire was crumbling. His subjects were rebelling. His military was bleeding. Admiral Torres broadcast final terms. "Surrender yourself for trial. Release all political prisoners. Grant independence to all conquered worlds. Do this, and we will allow your species to rebuild in peace. Refuse, and we will remove you by force." Vex Thor's answer was predictable. "Come and take me, human. I will show you why the Dominion has endured for 3 centuries. The human fleet jumped toward Krythax Prime. The final battle was about to begin. The Krythax home system was a fortress. 3 massive orbital rings surrounded the planet, each studded with thousands of weapons platforms. Minefields created deadly barriers in the approach corridors. Defense satellites filled the space between the planet and its 4 moons. Emperor Vex Thor had pulled every available resource to defend his throne world. 12,000 Krythax warships held formation around these defenses. They represented the last major concentration of Dominion military power. Behind them, on the planet's surface, 2 billion Krythax civilians watched the sky and waited. Admiral Torres stood on the bridge of her flagship, indomitable. She was 50 years old and had served in human military forces since she was 20. Her family had been among the original refugees who fled humanity's original galaxy. She had grown up hearing stories of the old war from her grandmother, a veteran who had fought the creatures from dark space. Now Torres commanded 8,000 warships in the largest fleet action humanity had fought since arriving in this galaxy. Around her flagship, the human armada assembled in attack formation. Each ship reported ready status. Every crew member was at battle stations. But Torres hesitated before giving the attack order. "Send a final communication to the planetary surface," she told her communications officer. "Broadcast it on all frequencies. Make sure every Krythax citizen can hear. 19.4, 19.4, 19.4, 19.41, 19.4, 19.4, 19.4, 9. The channel opened. Torres spoke carefully, choosing her words with precision. "People of Krythax Prime, I am Admiral Torres of the human fleet. We have come to end your Emperor's tyranny. But we have no desire to harm your civilians. We can destroy your orbital defenses and military forces without damaging your cities. We have weapons that can crack your planet if we chose to use them. We will not. You are not responsible for your Emperor's crimes. When this battle ends, you will be free to choose your own government and your own future. Stay in your homes. Stay away from military targets. You will not be harmed. She closed the channel. Do you think they believe you? Her executive officer asked quietly. Probably not, Torres admitted. They have been taught that other species are inferior, that the Dominion's strength gives them the right to rule. They expect us to act as they would act in victory. But perhaps some will remember that we kept our word. Beginning the attack might change their minds, the executive officer observed. Then we make sure our actions match our promises, Torres said. All ships, commence operation. Target only military installations. Precision strikes only. Any ship that causes unnecessary civilian casualties will answer to me personally. The human fleet advanced. The Krithax defense platforms opened fire first. Thousands of weapons lit up space with deadly energy. The firepower was impressive, capable of devastating any conventional fleet, but the human shields held, just as they had at New Sol. The technology that had allowed humanity to survive wars against reality-bending horrors proved more than adequate against conventional weapons. Return fire, Torres ordered. Disable those platforms. The human response was measured and precise. Each ship targeted specific platforms, using weapons designed to overload power systems rather than simply destroying everything in range. Platforms went dark one by one as their reactors were safely shut down. Crew members aboard those stations found themselves alive and unharmed, floating in disabled structures rather than dying in explosions. The Krithax fleet commanders watched in confusion. The humans could have simply obliterated the platforms. Why were they using less efficient methods? Emperor Vexthor watched from his palace, his clawed hands gripping the armrests of his throne. They show weakness. All ships, attack while they hesitate. The Krithax fleet surged forward to engage the human ships directly. 12,000 warships against 8,000. The odds were closer than any previous battle. Perhaps the Krithax could still win through sheer determination. The battle that followed was fierce but strangely restrained by human standards. The Krithax fought with desperate courage, knowing they defended their homeworld. Human forces engaged with professional efficiency, destroying enemy ships, but offering rescue operations for survivors from each destroyed vessel. After 6 hours of combat, the Krithax fleet was reduced to 4,000 functional ships. The human fleet had lost only 300 vessels. The mathematical conclusion was obvious. Then something unexpected happened. A Krithax admiral named Thalvex, commanding a squadron of heavy battleships, broadcast an open message to the entire Krithax fleet. This is Admiral Thalvex, to all Dominion forces. I have served the Empire for 80 years. I have conquered 30 worlds. I have followed every order given to me, but I will not follow orders that lead to the extinction of our species. Vexthor's voice crackled across the command channel. Thalvex, you will continue fighting or face execution for treason. I have reviewed the battle reports, Majesty, Thalvex continued calmly. The humans have destroyed 4,000 of our ships. They have rescued over 60,000 survivors from disabled vessels. They have not fired a single shot at our planet's surface, despite having weapons capable of cracking the crust. They could exterminate us. They are choosing not to. Perhaps we should ask ourselves why. They are weak, Vexthor roared. They lack the will to do what is necessary. Or perhaps they are strong enough to show mercy, Thalvex said quietly. All ships under my command are standing down. We will accept human terms of surrender. Silence fell across the Krithax command channels. Then another admiral declared her forces were standing down. Then another. Within minutes, 3,000 Krithax ships had powered down their weapons and accepted surrender. The remaining 1,000 ships loyal to Vexthor continued fighting. but they were quickly overwhelmed. The human fleet disabled the last resistance forces within 2 hours. Emperor Vex Thor sat on his throne, alone in his palace, watching his empire die on the tactical displays around him. He had ruled for over a century. He had crushed 1,000 rebellions. He had built the greatest military power the galaxy had known in modern times. And humans had destroyed it in 6 months. Activate the contingency, he ordered his remaining loyal guards. If I cannot rule this galaxy, I will at least make them pay for their defiance. Deep beneath the Imperial Palace, ancient weapon systems began powering up. They were planet killers. Bombs capable of destroying entire worlds through artificial stellar collapse. Vex Thor had placed them on hundreds of populated worlds throughout the Dominion, as insurance against rebellion. If he fell, he would take billions with him. The targeting systems locked onto 30 nearby inhabited planets, mostly worlds that had already been liberated by human forces. Mostly populations that had celebrated their freedom from Dominion rule. Vex Thor reached for the activation control. His hand froze. Admiral Thalvex stood in the throne room doorway, his weapon pointed at the Emperor. Behind him stood 20 Krithax soldiers who had chosen to follow their admiral rather than their emperor. "Step away from the control, Majesty," Thalvex said firmly. "It is over. You dare point a weapon at me," Vex Thor hissed. "I am your emperor. I made this civilization great." "You made us feared," Thalvex corrected. "That is not the same as greatness. Step away from the control, or I will shoot you where you stand." Vex Thor looked at his former admiral. He saw no hesitation in Thalvex's eyes. The old soldier meant every word. "I will be executed anyway," Vex Thor said bitterly. "Why should I show mercy when none will be shown to me?" "Because the humans will show you mercy," Thalvex said. "They will give you a trial. They will let representatives of the species you enslaved determine your fate. That is more than you ever gave your enemies." "You are weak," Vex Thor spat. "All of you, perhaps," Thalvex agreed. "Or perhaps we are finally learning that strength without wisdom is just cruelty." He fired. The shot struck Vex Thor in the shoulder, dropping the Emperor away from the planet killer control. Soldiers rushed forward to secure the former ruler. The threat was ended. Thalvex opened a communication to Admiral Torres. "Human fleet, this is Admiral Thalvex of the Krithax military. Emperor Vex Thor is in custody. All planet killer weapons have been deactivated. The Krithax Dominion formally surrenders. We request terms." Torres appeared on his screen. Her expression was tired but satisfied. "Your surrender is accepted, Admiral. We will begin rescue operations for all survivors immediately. Prepare to receive medical teams and disaster relief." "What will happen to our people?" Thalvex asked. "Will you occupy our worlds? Dismantle our government?" "You will determine what happens to your people," Torres said. "We will help you establish a legitimate government chosen by your citizens, rather than maintained through fear. We will share some technology to help rebuild what was damaged in the fighting. Then, we will leave you to govern yourselves." "Just like that?" Thalvex could not hide his disbelief. "You will not demand tribute? Resources? Submission?" "We told you from the beginning," Torres said patiently. "We do not want an empire. We want a galaxy where species can live free from tyranny. If the Krithax people can build a government that respects the rights of other species, you will be welcomed as equals in a new galactic order." "And if we cannot?" Thalvex asked. "Then, we will revisit the question," Torres said. "But we believe you can. You proved that today when you chose to arrest your emperor rather than follow him into madness. That took courage and wisdom." The war ended officially 3 days later. Across the former Dominion, human forces began transitioning from combat operations to humanitarian relief. Medical teams treated wounded from all species. Engineers helped repair critical infrastructure. Diplomats worked with local governments to establish stable transitions to independence. Ambassador Chen addressed a reformed Galactic Council 6 months after the Battle of Krithax Prime. The new council chamber was built on Unity Point Station, but now it included representatives from every species, rather than just those approved by conquerors. The Dominion is ended, Chen said simply. 63 worlds have regained their independence. Former client species are rebuilding with human assistance. Emperor Vex Thor is currently standing trial for war crimes, prosecuted by representatives from the species he oppressed. Justice is being served. What of the human fleet? Asked a delegate from the Talaxian Republic. Will you maintain such overwhelming military power? Yes, Chen answered honestly. We will keep our Warfleet active and ready. We will position forces throughout the galaxy as peacekeepers. We learned in our original home what happens when good people have no power to defend themselves against tyrants. We will not make that mistake again. So you will impose peace through force? Another delegate challenged. We will defend peace through strength, Chen clarified. There is a difference. We will not interfere in how you govern your worlds. We will not dictate your laws or policies, but if another tyrant arises who seeks to build an empire through conquest and slavery, they will face the same response the Krithax faced. Overwhelming force. Total defeat. 1. And who decides what constitutes tyranny worthy of response? The delegate pressed. Who guards the guardians? You do, Chen said, gesturing to the assembled council. This body will include human representatives, but we will be equals among many species. If humanity ever abuses its power, this council can declare sanctions. We will respect those decisions because we respect the principle of cooperative governance among free peoples. That is a lot of trust to place in one species, someone observed. It is the same trust we are placing in all of you, Chen replied. We are betting that given freedom and support, most species will choose cooperation over conflict. We are betting that tyranny thrives only when good people feel helpless to resist. We are betting that a galaxy where the strong defend the weak rather than exploiting them is possible. She paused, looking around the chamber. We may be wrong. History suggests we probably are. But we are willing to try. And we are willing to back that attempt with everything we have. The Council voted to accept human peacekeeping forces and to establish a mutual defense treaty. Not every species agreed immediately, but enough did to create a foundation for a new galactic order. 5 years after the war's end, Admiral Torres walked through a memorial garden on New Sol. The planet had been rebuilt, its orbital defenses restored, but the garden commemorated the 4,000 civilians who had died in the initial Krithax attack. A child approached her as she examined one of the memorial stones. The girl was maybe 8 years old, with dark hair and curious eyes. Are you really Admiral Torres? The girl asked. I am, Torres confirmed, kneeling to speak at the child's level. What is your name? 2. G1, the girl said. My teacher says you saved us from the bad aliens. Many people saved you, Torres said gently. Brave soldiers who fought, engineers who built ships, families who worked for 80 years, preparing for a war they hoped would never come. I just gave some orders. Will the big warships stay? G1 asked. My mom says, maybe we do not need them anymore. Torres looked up at the sky. High above, invisible to the naked eye, human dreadnoughts maintained silent watch over the system. As long as they are needed to keep you safe, Torres said. We hope that someday they will not be needed, that the galaxy will be peaceful enough that we can retire those ships and turn them into museums. But until that day comes, they will stand guard. Good, G1 said firmly. I like being safe. She ran off to rejoin her friends playing in the garden. Torres watched her go, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders again. Humanity had revealed its true power to the galaxy. They had proven they could fight and win against overwhelming numbers. They had shown that mercy in victory builds lasting peace better than cruelty. But the real test would come in the years ahead. Could they maintain that balance? Could they remain guardians without becoming tyrants? Could they keep their promises when the costs grew heavy? Torres did not know. She only knew they had to try. Above her, in the darkness of space, the human Warfleet kept its watch. Silent. Ready. Hoping for peace, but prepared for war. The galaxy slept under their protection, free at last from the shadow of the Dominion, and humanity stood guard, remembering their oath. Never again would they be helpless victims. Never again would they allow tyranny to flourish unchallenged. For as long as needed, they would be the shield that protected freedom. That was the promise they had made. And humans always kept their promises. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.